This program fuses magic, suggestions...
Hello, I'm Derren Brown, star of the show, and this is
Andy Nyman,
who is my major creative partner and creative force on the show. How are you, Andy?
I'm very well.
Is this your first DVD commentary?
It is my first DVD commentary, and I feel like I should have blown my nose before we just started.
I don't pick it. Yeah, so this is South Bank. I only know that because it just said that on
It looks incredible, the lights and stuff. I love the whole London vista.
This was so long ago now. We've just finished filming the series that follows this one, and are now going back and seeing this. I haven't seen this for quite a long time.
This was a bit of an enigma, wasn't it, this one? Some people seem to really like the telephones, and I think it puzzled some people. Do you think that's fair to say in terms
Certainly
of...
puzzled us.
The reaction. But that person standing looking sort of is what it was all about, really, do you think? The idea of just...
What you do, and just people ignoring people. Which they did, often for a lot longer than, we sort of would trim things down a little bit to fit into that 10-second bit or whatever, but certainly people were just sat there for ages.
And was this the first series that had this slightly freestyled 60s feel, wasn't it?
I think so. I think I'd got a bit sick of the Victorian Gothic arch thing. Fob.
Purple-headed fob.
Which ironically is actually how I live normally.
There are three things I noticed about being 33. Failing memory, hair loss, and failing memory.
Such a weak joke, I always thought, to start the series. I always found that slightly
But then,
cringe,
in a nice way, things could only get
Great
better.
of them to organise the trooping of the colour for us as well.
This guy's fantastic. He was amazing. And he looks a bit like a puppet as well. He looks a bit like a Henson.
It's a shame if he listens to this.
Yeah, in a great
offensive.
way. In those cool...
Like a great puppet.
Yeah. It was also a drive, wasn't it, in this series to make it quite sort of London-y in that 60s feel. Yes,
which I think it really has. And the music's purposely quite cheesy, and I think my beard's a lot trimmer.
Now or there?
There. And now.
Name or a tune or something like that. And you just end up just going round and around and around.
So we did this again with Big Ben, which I believe is now one of the extras, as we like to call them in the industry.
The other thing is when we're sort of creating ideas, you never really know what people are going to really latch onto when you're sort of thinking them through. And people seem to love this, didn't they? That in terms of the reaction that you've had from people talking to you about the series, and when people talk to me about it, they are often the cabbie kind of forgetting stuff is always something people talk about.
Yeah, and wasn't this an idea that we sort of had knocked around before, I think?
Yeah, I think...
A lot of ideas we do that, don't we? There are sort of things that we think about. Andy, for those of you who are... haven't watched the extras or have watched the extras, is the guy in the, I think it's fair to say, slightly effeminate red jacket playing the piano.
See, I wouldn't think of it as remotely effeminate at all.
No, that's quite... No.
Burlesque, perhaps, but effeminate not.
So that's Andy. This was a dream come true. Huge Stephen Fry fan. He was unbearable that day, wasn't he?
He's a huge Magic fan.
He was lovely.
And I don't know how much of it is on the...
He wasn't unbearable, he was lovely and delightful.
In the actual cut, but...
I used to get all those wonderful books.
I always remember there was a chat, sort of around this bit, where you asked him about Magic and stuff, and what he liked or didn't like about Magic, and the little kind of impromptu speech he came out with was incredible. He's so articulate. And...
He is, and of course, sadly this conversation did get trimmed a little bit. Yes, just extraordinary.
There's a theory that it's the revenge of the nerd, that it's the rather kind of ignored and hopeless child who's not good on the...
Nice little sparkle in your eye.
I've always seen that, and I always think... That's a little sparkle in my eye.
The big chaps, because you can actually fool them and you can make them go, bloody hell, how'd you do that? How can you do...
See,
what?
there it is again.
And they're the ones who can otherwise...
Very, very expensive special effect laid on.
Got the eyes. It was having the little bits of blue screen layered over my eyeballs. Now, I don't smoke, and later on I light up a cigarette. I think for any smokers watching, it's quite evident that I don't smoke.
And this is one of the very first trick, for want of a better word, effect that I ever saw you do.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you see me do this?
At Macmillan's.
Oh, right, Macmillan's being a convention for magicians that I was performing at, I guess.
Years ago. And then when Andrew O'Connor, who I think is doing one of the commentaries with you later.
Who's the other executive producer on the show, or one of the others. There are a few of us now, aren't there? But the main genius
that is
behind the
Objective
show.
Productions. Sort of wanted us to meet and potentially work together. You showed me this again.
No, there won't.
I mean, obviously, I saw straight through it.
Yeah.
As if.
And I showed this routine to Andrew O'Connor when he had the meeting with me to decide whether or not he wanted to go ahead and make the show with me. And I actually just did this routine for him in a restaurant. And what I've heard since, it was on the strength of this routine that I got the job.
Yeah.
And the show happened.
King of Diamonds, thank
Which
you.
is bizarre.
Oh, brilliant.
His reaction was brilliant, wasn't it?
Absolutely superb.
To this.
No, it's lovely.
Oh, my Lord.
Now, these sorts of things are what we call pure mind-reading effects, aren't they?
I like to think
Within
of
the
them as
show.
such. I love the idea of...
Did she pay you 10p there, by the way? Was that genuinely?
No, she did. Well, I had to make her go to the cash machine and then go and buy some stuff and get change. I like this idea of passing on what I like to think of as a gift. Here's a gift. A power to somebody else. Because I don't, unlike a lot of performers, I don't have much of an ego, so I'm very happy for someone else to take the credit for something.
Absolutely no ego at all. Where was this? Is that on Oxford Street or something? I wasn't around.
This was in London's busy West End, actually, on Oxford Street.
Yeah. And again, important to, God knows, it's sort of null and void, isn't it, us saying it, to restate that often people think these are just actors or whatever, but, you'll see, A, very nice manicure for her, and B, also, they are absolutely shocked and amazed. She has no idea at this point that this is going to be right. He has no idea. I mean, it's always a big drive, isn't it, to make sure that the people...
Yeah, absolutely.
That their reactions are real and true, otherwise it is just pointless.
Yes, no, exactly. I mean, I love listening to people's ideas on how how it's done, but one of the things I come across a lot is that they're set up or they're stooges, or even if they're not, that they sort they sort of would know what was happening and just playing along, and of course. A, it would destroy the point because it would make it meaningless for them, and B, then if they're not impressed, that would come across, and then or that there's been some other version of it, that what happened for them isn't what you see on TV. So then you'd have all these people that could go to the papers and say, well, that's not what happened, or well, it didn't work on me. They just showed the time that it works. All of these things. I mean, it's sort of
his face.
Oh, amazing. John Ward.
John Ward.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
It is lovely, yeah. Great music as well. Stefan, the director, and Dan, the editor, always managed to find just perfect
Totally magical.
music.
A picture of like this
The
long,
hospital, the wards,
like a long
that's unbelievable.
corridor.
It's John Ward, he's a tailor of mine, good friend, yeah.
Good plug there for John
I was just
Ward.
going to say, John Ward the tailor. Nice plug.
2 minutes ago,
Yeah.
just got pulled out of the crowd.
Yep. I was just constantly just saying the name, thinking she ain't going to get it. It's impossible. When she said corridor...
The other thing is going into these shoots, you never know how well they're going to work.
Amazing.
No.
Amazing.
You just have to take a deep breath with a lot of the things and do them, don't you?
Wards.
Back in the taxi in London.
You know where that is? Roughly?
with the puppet.
Look, there you go, London Eye. It says
Henson Workshop.
so we're pretty close.
Little
He was
sticks coming up his wrists. He's driving.
utterly bewildered, wasn't he?
Oh, he's so lovely. I mean, just some. Okay, so you just end up
expressive.
saying that about everybody, that everyone's lovely, but you. Some of these things like this, we'll get to do a couple of times.
Yeah.
The rule we have in the show is if something doesn't work one of those times, then we keep it in, so we reflect the fact that it's failed somewhere along the line. But like this, we did it once with the Big Ben, I think, and once with this, and just kind of in the end preferred, this guy's reactions and the feel of the whole thing.
Little tiny flash of Jono in the back of the cab
Jono,
there.
our cameraman there, look at him.
Yeah.
No trousers, from what I remember. A little bit like us
You or
both
him.
now.
Do you know, I actually saw went to see the London Eye being pulled up, right? Do you remember when it was all laid flat out over the Thames before they pulled it up? And I went
Stored
down
in the Millennium Dome. Did they really? Did they?
It was
when it
flat
first
out. And
started?
it was about 3 weeks. And I went with Sophie, my wife, and Macy and Preston, my children, and watched them hoist the thing up. It was
Wow.
absolutely incredible. Because it was only going to be there for a year, wasn't it? I think. The fingers routine.
Fingers.
Now, I think that this fingers routine was repeated too many times throughout the series. Or if not the routine, then certainly this opening.
I always thought that it was that slightly annoying musical thing that was repeated a
Yeah,
few too many
maybe
times as
it's-
opposed to the fingers routine.
Maybe it's that, but I think we came back to this in another episode or something, and I think certainly going through that whole little sequence at the beginning, I found a bit annoying. Jono again, with a beret. Never seen that since.
But you might think that somebody is behind telling me what number you're holding up. So do the same
And again, these are people that have just been pulled over, aren't they?
Okay,
I mean, these are just people in the street.
Yeah,
It's
kind
not-
of find out that crowds form pretty quickly, which
Yeah.
is nice.
neither of us can see in there. You can't see how many fingers being held. Okay, look at me. Think of the number. You done 6 again.
I knew that, just watching that then, she was thinking of 6 again. I haven't seen this for ages.
I'd have said 5 then.
He just said, no.
4. It's a 4, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Was that a 4 or was that a 9? It was
What?
a 4.
I was just going to say, it's very good that they don't cheat, because it wouldn't be hard, would it, to
Bring out a different...
Bring out.
numbers from your pocket, yeah.
a separate number of fingers?
Look at me. Sorry, just. You're either not holding up any, or I don't.
I see we've put the same twinkle in her eye that you had in yours, in the Stephen Fry scene. Yeah,
Hers
there
was-
it is.
Yeah.
Right, let me do one now behind my back. I'll try and do the next one, all right? And then you're going to tell me how many
amazing what you can
fingers
do
I
with
should be
CGI.
holding up behind my back.
Well, that whole crowd behind
That whole
you
crowd, that wasn't
is
there.
adding on afterwards, isn't it?
Watch how many fingers I put up, but don't let her know, all right?
Often the goat is put on afterwards.
One.
In fact, there are some scenes, if you watch this carefully, there are some scenes where I haven't got a goatee.
Yeah, there, it's gone.
It's back
That's
again.
back. Yeah.
I don't know how someone can do that. I don't really understand.
How did he guess that?
There was no way he could have known.
Yeah, there was no way he could have known.
Mind-boggling.
Oh! Sorry, we're giggling with excitement because we didn't know what was coming up next.
Julian Hodgson.
These were a pretty intense group of guys.
So they're not that impressive. This was... this was...
Grandmaster. Chris Ward,
This had to pay the
Grandmaster.
Simpsons a lot together.
Nathan Alfred, FIDE Master.
The...
and Robert Chan, President of the
Yeah.
Chess Society.
This was... I mean, my chess isn't terrible, but it really isn't very good. But the idea of
The chess grandmaster.
just basically not winding up, but just lying to, stroke fooling all of these chess experts sat round. They come down from over the country. I had no idea if they were going to be snooty or unpleasant, whether they'd immediately see through it. And of course, they were delightful. I mean, really, really delightful. And but God, when I started playing, I started walking around the circle there. Just really grinning to myself, certainly.
I love it.
I'm going to go in there and absolutely lie to them. I'm hoping that the lies that I tell will give me the psychological edge.
It should,
That was Andy laughing, not me laughing. at my
that
own
was me
joke.
laughing, yeah. I was laughing at,
You're still laughing at your own joke.
at my own joke. Should also point out that budget-wise, I think this still is the most expensive thing we've ever shot, isn't it? In terms of the set and design and everything.
There's a whole dream sequence that never made it to the show.
Yeah, well, certainly
Look
things
at
that have been
it's
shown.
ever so nice. Of course, those screens there in the middle of the room, they're definitely for a reason. Once we find out the method, it was important that none of the players would turn around and see the person diagonally opposite them and recognise their same game in reverse.
And during that time, I've been reading transcripts and been
Mr. Burns there again.
kind of familiarising myself with your games. Okay, going to give.
They really were super intelligent people, weren't they?
I'm going to ask you just to.
They were, and I think.
Inside pocket you've got there.
I think by the end of the game, a number of them, because the idea of mirroring games in chess is not, it's not unheard of within chess at all. I think if you play a simultaneous game with two players, there are, I think there are rules about the number of moves that you can copy. So it's not unheard of. I think what would have thrown them is the idea of me having to remember so many at the same time. Because if you're playing it around in a circle like that, you've just got to retain so much information. So I think that I'm absolutely sure that a lot of them would have picked up on the idea of mirroring moves, but hopefully wouldn't have thought it was possible here.
But I know quite a few sort of good chess players, and the amount of people who say, even within that, there's no way that Derren could even beat just the weakest player, who is the last player who gets beaten. These guys play at such a level. And what I've always loved when people talk about this routine is that they say, because Derren's terrible at chess, people who don't know you at all. And that's based purely on the fact in your intro you say, please remember, I am shit at chess, and they just believe that, irrespective of whether or not that's true.
What you don't see is that for that ninth player, I just had to keep distracting him. You don't see me turn up in the clown suit once. I've got the hooter.
It's one of the worst things in chess, the worst thing. Got the opening a bit wrong, and from then on it was all downhill.
Not happy.
It's always nice to win.
Oh, Smithers.
A leading grandmaster.
Close down the power plant the next day.
I was quite surprised, player standard. I was a bit lucky, actually, in the end, managed to draw.
I learned that day, that if you do that with your fingers, that means a draw.
Thank you very much. William Count.
The other thing, when they're talking, you realise that it's the whole chess club thing at whatever level, even at this level, that it was like every other club or every other society, or it was like any group of magicians or train spotters or bird watchers, or talking about the society and the group, about it being sort of the politics that go on amongst them all and everything. Do you remember how kind of... Oh, he was so sweet.
You lose some. I lost this one. Thanks.
That was the one real game I was playing.
I've played a Grandmaster, and I think Derren is on a par with them, at least.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much for your...
These screens have now gone, because now they can look.
The results of that, I guess, were I won at 4 tables, lost at 3, and then drew against the other 2. So that technically would be a win for me against you as a group, and that's...
Some of the more competitive ones were sort of smiling through clenched teeth, I think, that they'd been beaten by you.
Number means anything to you.
Which, of course, they hadn't. They'd been beaten by each other.
Yeah. I stand corrected.
Oh, no.
611, 7106, 118105.
I wonder if that means anything on the chess world, because now they've all played each other and half of them have beaten the other half. Whether that means anything.
Table number 1, how many pieces were left of your own colour?
I've got 7 pieces of my own colour left.
7 pieces of your own
Graham there wrote us a very nice letter afterwards saying how much he enjoyed the... That was a mistake. That was, I think, that 7 and I wrote 6 or something. Saying how much he enjoyed it, which is always... always very nice.
10 pieces.
10 pieces?
Just a little something for anyone listening who ends up taking part
in
the
the show. Just a nice letter
little,
afterwards. It's a nice
maybe
gesture.
A bottle of something as well.
Maybe.
8 pieces I have left.
8?
10 pieces.
You have 10 pieces. And finally, Robert there.
Where was the studio? This was in South East London or something, wasn't it?
It's my kitchen. It's my kitchen.
Oh, this is your kitchen, I see. It's very good.
That game. I gave you an envelope, sorry, at the very start. Could you, I don't want to touch it, would you just come around here?
Trick of the light there, I appear to have no hair on the back of my head.
Take out what's inside, just give me the envelope, I'll get rid of that. Cheers, thank you very much indeed.
Always found that a bit odd as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, weird little sing-song moment.
What I hope will keep you up all night is how I was trying to influence those games desperately as I was playing to end up with precisely that result. 6, Mistake. One
I can always imagine that revelation, the number of this massive production of this huge ribbon of numbers across the studio. Turned out to be a...
Well, just the practicalities are so different, aren't they? Because you realise if you have this huge, massive thing that gets concertinaed and handed to someone who's got to carry it in their pocket.
Yeah. Doesn't really work.
No.
Thank you, guys.
We get pretty close to the sort of imagined effects, don't we?
I think that does look
a
great.
lot of the time.
It's very interesting to find out they actually painted the checkerboards on the floor with a slight perspective sort of point in one direction, so they sort of converge slightly over one side to create the feeling of extra space. They do it in Disneyland, but in the Euro Disney with the big castle actually gets narrow.
Serious,
yeah, no, it's true. It gets narrow towards the top, so when you look it up, it appears to be taller than it is. If that makes sense, it looks like it's
That's
going
very
further
good. I
away.
never knew that. It's a bit like the yellow lines on the road when you're coming closer to a roundabout. They start wider apart and they get narrower. They get closer together as you get closer, so it feels like you're going faster, so you slow down more.
Oh, very good. Right, excellent.
There you go.
Graham was playing white, and Desmond was playing
I always loved the graphic that they use in this as well, the arrow. You'll see in a minute when you go around the circle. I love the way. This was something as well, wasn't it? Because this was a theory that we kind of had been out there for a bit. I think it was one of those things that initially we sort of thought might be, playing off each other, the mirror game. It sort of makes sense when you start it and think, oh yeah, well, you just play one off the other and one off the other. But then I think when you started trying to get your head around the practicalities of it, there's just the most enormous amount to remember, isn't there?
There is. So you use memory techniques and mnemonics and so on to remember that pattern as you go across. So you have, well, you knew what I was doing, because I tell you everything.
So, I start at table 1 and I remember the opening. I go to 2 and remember that opening, and the same with 3 and 4.
It's like, yeah, following that so far. Good. Getting slightly scared now.
On 6, I play the opening from 2 and remember that response. On 7, I play 3's opening and remember that, and on 8, I do the same from table 4. We'll leave table 9 for the moment. Back to 1, and I play the response from 5 and remember this new response. And so on.
Yeah, it's when the new colours come in that I start to go cold.
One side of the room and playing them on the other side. That will give me an equal number of wins and loses against the group, as half will win.
Apparently, I think what tipped them that I wasn't really much of a seasoned chess player was the way I put the chess pieces back down on the board.
It is amazing that, isn't it?
It never occurred to me, because afterwards one of them was saying that interesting that I did so well, but he could tell that I wasn't a proper player, and all I can imagine was the handling the pieces. I was trying to do a sort of a Kasparov. I don't like that smug look coming back to me at the end. I always think I look rather smug there, and I'm certainly.
He's literally
one thing I'm not as smug.
He's a whole half hour of
the
show.
episode like many of the viewers.
Sophie, my wife, had the best solution as to how this worked. She said that there were special phone boxes that had. She couldn't find the words, but so came out with a nerve gas spray in the thing, so that as they picked the phone up, it was psst, and it's knockout gas.
Yes, in reality, it's knockout gas, not nerve gas. So
that's the difference. She was close, but she wasn't exactly right. Yeah, but always.
And besides, they lit that in the colours of our show. That's what's so great. Jono's throughout the series, you see the red and blue and green like that. I think that's it. I think we're gonna.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, Andy.